Hey, Jesus. Yeah, I'm good. I love you. Thank you for blessing me with life today and every day and the world. Thank you. Oh, I love that guy. We're doing all three? Do we have the time? Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to doubt you. I'm sorry. Okay, yes. Talk to you later. Okay.
We're doing all three. That's my type of party. Oh, I forgot.
Welcome to another episode. Wait, which camera am I looking at? This one? Yeah. Welcome to another episode of not Whoreible Decisions, but almost. Bible Stories with me, Brianda. Brianda. Joining me is number one whore herself. Is it the wrong program for that?
Hi, everybody. I'm Weezy. I'm Brianda's producer and devil on her shoulder.
And devil she is. Now, today we're talking about the one, the only. Like, if Jesus is Beyonce, this is for sure Kelly. Abraham. The Abraham. Abraham, father of the covenant, father of all nations, father of the Jews. Hey now. Oh, Weezy isn't, she's fixing the camera. Weezy, get on camera. Father of the Jews. But
here.
Yeah, she's right here. But before we dive into back into the book of Genesis, I wanted to briefly explain why we spliced Job in between our Genesis in the Old Testament stories real quick. The reason why we put Job there, and I love the story of Job, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode, is because the Bible as it is not laid out. It's not presented in the chronological order in which it was written. So in actuality, Job happened sometime after the flood with Noah and before Abraham. So that's why I decided to put it where I did. Also to spice things up a bit, you know what I'm saying? I don't like to do what everyone else does. Obviously.
Oh, you don't?
Let's the first things first. Let's talk about who Abraham is exactly and why he's so important. So Abraham is directly related to Noah through Shem, Noah's son. In anyone that's important in the story of Abraham to David to Christ, they all have that same line. That's where God's promises start and end. It's like that same line. That family origination is super important in all of these biblical stories. So it's going to seem like it's getting old, but if I repeat myself, it's because it's important. So the story of Abraham starts at Genesis 12. Well, the last paragraph of Genesis 11 into Genesis 12. And the episode for today is going to be through Genesis 12 to 17 if you guys want to read along or follow along with us. In the Bible, Abraham is actually known as Abram to start. So for the first 3 chapters, he's known as Abram. For the sake of not confusing Weezy, and all of us, I'm just going to call him Abraham. But just know that he was referred as Abram. Same with his wife, Sarah. In the beginning, she was known as Sarai until God changes their name at the covenant, which we'll get to in a moment.
I think I got a Jewish cousin named Sarai.
You know what? Mazel. Anywho, I remember when I first started reading the Bible, something that helped me understand the history was basic small little facts on the timeline. From Adam to Abraham is 2,000 years. The story of Abraham starts 300 years after the flood. Actually, Abraham lived with Noah for just around 30 years too, which I had no idea about, but I thought it was so cool. I had no idea he had conversations with Noah. Major. Anyways, the reason why we say like Abraham's covenant, God's covenant with Abraham is because, you guessed it, he started a covenant with Abraham at his call. It was called like the call, like Abraham's call. So us Christians, Weezy, we all have like a call. It refers to the first time that we had an experience, like a real life experience with Christ.
Oh, with Christ.
What did you think I was talking about? Have you had an experience with any God? No judgment. No judgment.
Have
Ever.
I had an experience with any God?
Yeah, like have you ever had an experience like that felt like out of body? I mean,
Oh my God, yeah. Like with mushrooms all the time.
talk about it. My first time, the first experience I ever had with God was reading the book of John on acid. I told you this. I think I said it on an episode of Whoreible Decisions, and it was transformative. And I'm not saying that you need to do acid to feel these things. In fact, I haven't done a psychedelic in a while now, and I'm feeling comparable sensations just by praying. How neat, right? I mean, you really feel God's presence, even if they're not as amplified as a psychedelic experience. It could be something as easy as a warm thank you at a Starbucks. You know, that was corny, but I mean that.
Good for you, because I like a warm thank you right after. Let's get back to.
Okay, Weezy, the call. So God calls on Abraham. And let me get the direct quote from scripture. So at Genesis 12, verse 2, God says to Abraham, for now for us, I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Now, you guys know, I'm a Christian woman, loud and proud. Sure, I'm progressive, radical, unconventional, I get it, but I am. When I read that, and I'm sure I speak for many Christians when we say, when we read that, that is kind of like a prophecy. It's God's prophesying what would later happen with Jesus Christ. Now, if that's too Jesus-y for you, what God is telling Abraham there when he says, I will bless you and all that come after you, let's break it down a bit. Remove the religious connotations to it. He's saying that, I mean, in my interpretation, right? I'm not a pastor, I'm not a theologian, I'm not a biblical scholar, but
you be knowing.
I do. I mean, I've been thinking about this stuff a lot because it's really fun for me. In that line, when he says, I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. In a sense, God is conveying to Abram just how much, like, this isn't about him. Peoples on earth will bless through you. The people will be blessed through you. Like it's putting emphasis on those that come after. Almost like this has so little to do with Abraham and so much to do about what he does and what happens after. Like, we're so small. We are such a microscopic, minuscule component to this vast, amazing, beautiful life. And that's how I perceived it before I, started getting all churchy. And I think the reason why God decided to choose Abram, and I mean, this is just me, my interpretation, is because Abraham was blameless and righteous, and God knew his heart, and it's basically like Abraham did whatever God told him to do. God said jump. Abraham said how high. Like, anyone who does that in Christ, when it comes to God, God sees that and it's like, oh, I love that. And for Christians or any believer, right, being obedient isn't a job. Being obedient brings us joy, because wherever God is where the joy is. That sounds super like hippy dippy, and I know, but it's just that's the only way the words can translate to what I feel. Like, when I know that I've done something that feels right to me, that's how I know, oh, okay. God's winking at me like, you go, girl. And I love it,
You think God be winking at you like that?
Honestly, yeah. I have a real relationship with God. Like,
It's some homegirl shit? Like,
no. Oh, no. That much, no. It's definitely more of like a parent, but more like, ooh, gives me the chills. Like, even doing this, even, can I be honest with you? Hi, Tangi, for the show. Like, even having the phone and doing some satirical stuff that we're doing here, Weezy, I pray every night, like, God, I hope I'm not taking it too far. Like, the reason why I'm doing this is so that, like, we show to people just how approachable having a relationship with something outside of ourselves is. I don't want to mislead people into thinking that I'm not serious about my beliefs and I don't have reverence for my father, because I very much do. But I just know that this is a temporary. Like, how Charlemagne at the beginning, Charlo was like this like brash asshole. Like, that wasn't who he really was. I feel like he was doing that in a moment to acquire an audience, perhaps, to push something along, but that wasn't who he really was. And not saying that I'm not a silly girl, I am, but I don't be talking to Jesus like, hey Jesus. No, it's not like that for me. But for I know how, I can't tell you why I know this, but something in me tells me that this show is so much, it could do some things for a lot of people.
I don't want to freak you out.
What?
But I feel like ever since I started doing the show, I have so many interactions with people that want to talk about God with me. So I'm in an Uber yesterday, just shipping some boxes. It's a Muslim guy, and he just tells me how nice of a girl I am. So I'm like, ooh, he flirting with me. But then he was like, I just feel it. Like, you got in the car, you're just making me happy. I wasn't even talking to him. I said, well, the sun is out. Okay, the sun is out. It's not me. And he's like, no, maybe it's just, I'm one of God's chosen ones, so you probably are too. Wow. I was like, I don't really, believe in God. I know there's a higher power. And he was like, well, maybe you think it's nature. Maybe you think it's something else. He's like, but you got to go in a corner. You got to purify yourself before you talk to him. And you're going to get close to him. And even if you don't think it's him, whatever you think it is, you're just going to have this relationship and you're going to understand why people are drawn to you. So, did I join his cult?
Can we I don't know, WhatsApp exchange? I don't know.
I honestly was like, he's trying to pull me in, but I don't know. I was appreciative of it, and I think it's interesting. Sometimes I just think I'm a person that has high vibrations and tries to elevate on a certain frequency, but some other people find that it's God. So I don't know. Maybe it's the Brianda.
No, I think it's not. It has nothing to do with me. I have nothing to do with it. Nothing. I really don't. I believe that. Like, I know that it's all God. And it's not an accident that you were taken by me when we met randomly at some seminar where there were, I don't even know how many people there. You know what I mean? Market. But, I don't know. I just, when you know certain things, when you have a relationship with something bigger, when you're hyper spiritual, if you will, I don't know.
Yeah.
You start not calling things coincidences, and you kind of start just writing it out. Like, oh, okay, I get it.
I got to take her back to the sex club, y'all.
No, please no. So let me push the story along. I heard mad listeners are saying that my episodes are too short. I don't think this one's going to be that. Sorry about Noah. But this one is going to be a little lengthy for the people who wanted a little longer of an episode. I wanted to talk about specifically what God required from Abraham at that initial call. God told him, listen, all of the nation of Canaan will be yours. You just have to go there. I need you to leave here. And I need you, where were they? I freaking forget, like Bethel, I believe. And I need you to go to Canaan. Now, if you guys remember from previous episodes, Canaan was a nation that was wickedly, and where there were worship idolers and anti-God's divine law, anti-God's divine order. And so when Abraham heard God say, go to Canaan, he was scared. He was like, wait, what? Did I hear that right? You said you want me to go to Canaan? And God said, yes. Despite his fears, he went and did it, So he goes to Canaan, and with his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot. Well, we will hear more about Lot in a later episode, Sodom and Gomorrah. So in Canaan, the entire nation of Canaan experiences a huge famine. So it's kind of funny because after the second, Abraham gets there, there's a famine, and he's like, God, did you what? he leaves. And then he goes to Egypt. But I wanted to talk about this too, because I think it's kind of cool. Like the idea that God wanted me to do something, wanted me to go to Canaan. And eventually Canaan does become his because, hello, Abraham becomes the father of all nations of Israel. This is kind of cool because he knows that God's vision is Canaan, but because of the famine, he needs to think of a plan B temporarily. And in life, we kind of all have these plan Bs, right? For example, anecdotally, like I bartended and waitressed in clubs and bars in New York City. I was just telling Val, my girl, shout out to makeup. Val does makeup. Is that your Instagram? Oh, wow. Oh, cut. My girl, Val does makeup on Instagram. I was just telling her, we waitressed together. We know how it is. It's vile in there. I mean, I did a lot of dirty things in there. And every single shift I would work, this is before I was a Christian, I just would feel something inside of me, like outside of the fact that I wanted to be on TV, I wanted to be a star and shit, right? Target. What, Weezy?
I mean, I hate to ask, but I feel like the people want to know what kind of dirty things you did in there.
Weezy. Val, don't say anything. Actually, I don't care. I'll say it because in hopes that it'll like tell you I'm not perfect. You guys keep asking me to pray for your cats and shit. And I'm like, I'll do it. But I'm really not like, I'm not Mother Teresa. So in New York City, working at these bars, clubs for 8 years, I mean, wasted on the bar, dancing on the bar, had people lick whipped cream off my breasts. I've had sex.
Like the nipple?
No, not that
just
far.
The top.
Just the top. Sex in bathrooms, just like those things that are so, I know. I don't even want to talk about it like in depth because I won't, because I'm trying to find my future husband. But
you might be in the YouTube comments.
I know, hopefully. I don't know. If you're hot and over 6 feet, call me. But what I'm saying is when Abraham went to Canaan and he realized that there was a famine, he knew that there was, this couldn't have been the plan. Let me go to Egypt. I know that I'll come back here eventually. In my eyes, I said, okay, you know what? I know that I don't like being here at this bar. I know that I don't want this hairy, balding man to lick whipped cream from my breasts. But I know that I have to do it because I have to make New York City rent at the moment, unfortunately. And I know it's going to come to an end. And I have not bartended or waitressed in a very long time. Thank you, Jesus, right? I just knew that it was a part of a plan, not the plan for me. So that was a small little tangent. So now we're in Egypt. We've got Abraham, Sarah, and Lot, and their donkeys and stuff, because Abraham was loaded. He was rich. I'm talking about Rick Ross rich. Had mad stuff, like his donkeys was carrying all the gold and stuff and the wine and whatever. Them donkeys was like, this is heavy. What do we do?
That ass got some gold on it.
Yeah, like it was rich, right? On the way to Egypt, Abraham goes to Sarah and he goes, listen, we are loaded. We got Rolexes in the back in the coupe, the donkey. We got mad stuff. The second we get into Egypt, they're going to want to sleep with you. But not just because he was rich, but because Sarah was so damn hot. She was so hot. He was rich. There's too much going on here, too flashy, too busy.
What do you think she looked like?
Okay, that's a very good question because Sarah at this time was 65. Abraham was 75, around that age.
All right, never mind. I'm good.
No. But she was still so hot. Throughout Genesis and other stories, everyone wants to sleep with Sarah. And I'm like, what is she giving? I'm talking about, we got Michelle Obama, over 50 hot. J-Lo, hot.
I don't know about over 65.
Yeah, what's over 65? I'm just thinking over 50.
My mom's pretty hot. She's over
Your mom is hot.
Over 65 attractive women.
That was Sarah. Yeah.
Wow.
Give us a few.
It's coming up.
What's that white woman who always plays the queen? Helen Mirren.
I almost said Jane Fonda.
But that's Sarah. Give us one or two.
Like honestly, Brianda.
None? Oh, okay.
They're aging like raisins and they're being nice about it. Or Jane Seymour. Okay, she's attractive.
Jane Seymour. Well, needless to say, she had to have been attractive if she was gaining.
Raquel Welch. I mean, they're really picking from the weeds.
Oh my God. Okay, so we're it's tough. It's tough out here, especially for women. Like older men get all the love and women don't. It's so annoying.
There are no Black or Latina women on this list, or even Asian women. And I just have to say, if anybody's gonna look over 65 and be like hot, Susan Sarandon is on this list. Oh, honey, this is a mess. Jamie Lee Curtis is
She's good. She got great breasts. I don't want to say tits anymore. I'm going to start saying breasts.
Iman, the model.
Gorgeous. Naomi's not 60. No. Well, anyway, in any case, so they get to Egypt and he says, listen, because you're hot, because we're rich, it's going to be a bad vibe. You need to tell them in Egypt, anyone in Egypt, that you're my sister. Just, if they don't, they'll kill me. If they know that you're my wife, they'll get rid of me. They'll be like, who is this rich guy with this hot ass girl? Bye. So she said, you know what? I'm going to do that. Lo and behold, they get to Egypt and guess what? The Pharaoh, Weezy, the Pharaoh looks at Sarah and says, "Damn, what's good with you?"
That's what he said.
That's what he said. Damn. And of course, like clockwork, Sarah goes, we just came here from another place and I'm with my brother. I don't know if she had that accent, but
the name is what?
His name is Abraham. And the Pharaoh was like, all right, let's get it. Bye, bro. And then he sold him off. And then, you want to know something? Abram at the time got a bunch of stuff. Like after she left, the guys gave him more stuff, like donkeys and tools and stuff. And I'm like, did you just pimp your wife off? I don't know. And that may be just me over-interpreting, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm just a clown on the internet. But I read that in preparation for today, that's interesting. You got all these toys. Anywho, so now we're in Egypt. Guess what? God knows that this is not a part of the major plan. And this isn't like moving from Canaan to Egypt. God knows. God understands when you make shifts like that. God is merciful, God is sovereign, and God understands to a certain extent. When you give away your wife, the person that's supposed to create the offspring of the spawn that I just told you about, the promise, the covenant that we just talked about, literally the chapter before, he was like, no. So God puts a huge plague over Egypt. And the Pharaoh's like, oh my God, what's going on? And he later finds out from one of the seers or whatever. So they say that, it's that new trick you just brought in. She ain't
That's
single.
A new trick. Ooh.
She ain't single. She lied to you. And the Pharaoh goes to Abram, what? Why would you give me your wife? Look at what God has done. You can't mess with God like that. That's what the Pharaoh's saying. Mind you.
Maybe they were swingers though. Maybe they like to get it in.
Listen, and I'm sure the Pharaoh would have been down and jiggy with it, but not in this case because God is doing all these things to his kingdom. So he said, you ain't worth it. Sarah, you hot. You not that hot. Bye. We don't want this. And also in that sense, it shows just how flawed Abram is and how righteous kind of this Pharaoh was. Because at face value, you would think that the Pharaoh would be the one to do naughty things. But it's so funny, role reversal, who's the villain and who's the hero. It shows that the Pharaoh in that moment was a little more blameless than Abram. So now they leave Egypt. We've got Sarah again. We've got Abraham and we've got Lot. They go off and Lot and Abraham, because they're so poppin' and resourceful, they become even more rich. Anywhere they go, they get it poppin'. I think they're just touched. They just know what they do. Abraham goes to Lot and he goes, listen, we got to separate. We're too icy together. You got to go one way. I got to go the other. So Lot, because Lot is younger, Abraham says, you pick where you want to go and then I'll go the opposite way. So Lot goes, oh, you know what? Without even batting an eye, he goes, I go to Sodom because Sodom was very, very fruitful, great land, but it was around a lot of wickedness. Wait for the next episode. Ding. During this time, while Abraham and Lot are separated, a war between the nations ensues. Don't ask me which nations because I can't pronounce them, but it can be found in Genesis 14 if you want to read it. And Abraham has a squad of 318 people. He finds out that in this war, his nephew Lot is taken and he goes, oh, hell no, I'm going in with my crew. Abraham kills all of them. He is a victor. He bodies all of them, takes Lot back, bada bing, he's fine. Then people start looking at Abraham like, oh no, that guy's different. Like even the king of Sodom was like, here, you can have like all this other stuff. Like, nah, you did that, right? Here we got, Abraham has showed himself to be a victor. He's showed himself to be brave. He showed himself to be tactful, a leader, all this stuff. But he still ain't got no kids. Sarah was still, years after, it's like 20, 30 years after from the beginning of the call. And Sarah still hasn't given him a son.
But you did say she was 65 at the time, so that would make her 90.
This is true. Yes. She was like around 80 and stuff. It's wild, but here's the thing. God doesn't know limitations. Like when we doubt, God laughs. It's like, what, doubt what?
So he doesn't have hard limits.
No, his credit card has no limit. He laughs. He's like, he's all knowing, omnipresent, like the baddest, like, what do we, when we doubt, it reveals our hearts to him, and he knows that he can do anything. So when he says that Sarah's gonna give birth to Abraham's son, it's going to happen. We don't know when, but we can rest assured, if God made a promise to you, it's going to happen. It's quite simple as that. It's like people who know that they're meant to do something. That's the same thing. That thing inside of you that's like, I didn't see it in writing. No one sang it to me in a song, but I know. It's that feeling. That's God. Anywho. So now we get to the covenant. The covenant, the most important part. The covenant of Abram. And it is
What is the covenant? I feel like it could be a dirty word.
Or a nightclub.
Yeah.
So
Don't touch my covenant.
The covenant. Oh, Weezy. I'm so happy we're friends.
We both have a covenant.
We do have a covenant.
I hide stuff in my covenant. It's like nature's pocket.
Mine's been closed since 2018.
Yeah, well.
Locked, sealed, delivered. I'm not yours. Anywho, so now we're at Genesis 15, verse 1. God tells Abraham, what?
Tell us what a covenant is.
So the covenant, the most important part, the ceremonious event that occurred. A covenant is super important because it's God's promise. It's a formalized, this is what you do. This is how I want you to do it. Put your head down and get to work. That's a covenant. It's God's promise. It's God's promise. Biblically, it's the promise that we will be saved one day. Of course, I'm a Christian. Take that as you will. You know, I can only do this show as me, Brianda. But for me, that's what it means. It's God's promise to us all that we will be saved. That we will, and I know when some people say that, what the hell does that mean? When I say saved, that we will find that joy, that peace, that I'm trying to secularize what I just said in case you haven't noticed. Am I doing a good job? I'm really trying here. I'm trying not to to ride the line of not being too preachy or, because I know that I want this show to be universal. So let me know, sound off in the comments if I'm doing a good job or if you want me to, do a better job of secularizing my points, because I will. I want to be better. So at this point, God's like, Genesis 15:1, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. Now, this is just a little reminder, a nudge for Abram, just to let him know, remember that promise I gave you at the top half? We're still greenlit, okay? The pilot has been picked up. Just hold on. We're waiting for it to go to series. Only actors will know what the heck that means. But Abraham goes, I still don't have kids, God. Who do I give it to? Who are we going to give my throne to? The nations that you keep talking about. Blessed be my family. What line? I don't have children. Am I going to give it to Eleazar, my servant? His servant was the homie. His servant was super loyal and great. Like, Val's laughing. But he was great. And God goes, no, you fool. No, you're going to have a proper heir and it's going to be of blood. Just you wait. God goes to Abram. He goes, look up there, look at the sky, count the stars. And Abraham looks up and counts the stars. This is a huge symbolic moment in the Bible. He sees so many stars. God says, how many do you see? Count them. They're too many to count. Each one of those stars is every single one of Abraham's descendants. Again, could it be a prophecy? Prophesying? What happens in the story of the Bible, the story of Abraham? Maybe, if you choose to believe it. I think it is. This is a very meaty episode, guys. So if you need to pause it, have a snack. So after the covenant, also, this happens at chapter 17, but I'm going to mush them together for the sake of the story. The way God sanctifies this covenant is by properly changing Abraham's name. He changes it from Abram to Abraham. He changes Sarah's name from Sarah to Sarai. They have this sacrificial, like a huge sacrificial, like moment where they cut animals in half and dance around them. Blah! And in ancient times, that means like, this is official. And then the funnest part, he circumcises every man after. That is the official, this is what the covenant is like. This is the seal.
That's fun. Where did they put it? You think they got a little waste bin? Or?
Listen, back then, I do not know. They probably put it in a stew. Who knows? But listen, that day, Abraham went with Ishmael. Ooh, we haven't even gone to there. But that's why I said this is chapter 17. But he, that day, goes to get his dick cut off. Like, the second he tells him, at like 99, Abraham gets his circumcision, with his son Ishmael.
They ain't had no anesthesia?
No, nothing. Well, listen. So now, now we're getting juicy because I just mentioned Ishmael. Did you guys hear me say Ishmael? God, Abraham goes after God says you and every man after you is to get circumcised. Otherwise, you're not a part of, you've broken the covenant promise. He takes his son Ishmael. Ooh, did you hear that? Abraham did have a son. I fast forwarded, but guess what? This son isn't Sarah's. Therefore, this isn't the promise of Israel. This isn't the promise that God wanted for Abraham. Now, let me tell you what happened. Sarah was so old and in a state of suffering, she became afraid and impatient with God's promise. So she took matters into her own hands. She tried to find a shortcut. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
I sure
always
have.
try to find a shortcut.
We all do.
I'm trying to figure out how to end this episode early, y'all. I'm just like,
no, you're not. It's a long episode, though, for real. I'm almost done, though. Actually,
no, I'm teasing Brianda. This is what they want.
This is what they want. They've said they want it a little bit longer. I'm going to freaking give it to you.
Listen, if you guys are listening to this, great. But if you are watching it, you would see that Brianda has 19 butterflies in her hair. And if you thought this was going to be 23 minutes, you were wrong.
No, I have a look, honey, and you guys are going to see it for every single one, okay? Listen, so now we're talking about Sarah and her plans. So like I said, she became impatient and afraid that the covenant wasn't going to be fulfilled because she couldn't bear children. How long was she going to have to wait? God, have we ever been that impatient? Like, how long do I have to wait for my thing to happen? For my career to kick off? For like college to be over? For like whatever, like that thing, like, oh, that's what happened. So Sarah has a slave named Hagar who she acquired when she was in Egypt. When the Pharaoh probably gave it to her or something. And she says, Hagar, you are to sleep with my 100-year-old husband and have his babies, period. And at that time, of course, remember when I said laws of hermeneutics, descriptive, not prescriptive? In this case, what Sarah's doing is totally foul. When you read stuff like this in the Bible, and it happens often, especially with women and misogyny, try not to think of it as they're prescribing you to do something. They're, you know what I'm saying? No, they're just describing what occurred. Sarah gave a huge boo-boo. This was not okay. So anyways, Abraham bones Hagar, and they have a baby. That baby's name is Ishmael, later known as like father of the Ishmaelites. Like he ends up having other things, but he's not Sarah's kid. And God was so displeased. Sarah then goes to Abraham and is like, you know what? Now she's pregnant and now I'm mad. So her plan didn't even make her happy. At the end of the day, when you find shortcuts, the shortcuts don't even make you happy at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So then Abraham tells Sarah, listen, do whatever you want with her. This isn't my problem. This was your idea. Hagar becomes so pained and so tired of Sarah's bullying, arrogance, her violence, Hagar ends up leaving. Hagar leaves. She goes off to a desert with no resources, no nothing. She's poor. She basically goes there to die, basically. Like, she doesn't know what to do. And in her weakness, in her weakest state, an angel shows up. An angel, Weezy. Baby, like you're my, I feel like you're my angel for my career.
Like today, I'm wearing white. It's so virginal.
No, Weezy. When I think of you, that's what I think. Something of angel. I'm not being silly. I mean that. What you've done for me, I'll never forget it.
Stop me. I want to cry.
No, what you've done for me is crazy. But anywho,
what a great episode. We talked about you getting stuff like off your boobies, and now I'm an angel. I almost joined a cult.
So anywho, Hagar's in the desert, hungry, tired, pregnant. God shows up. It's not God. Let me say this. It was an angel. It's in the Bible. It says the angel, the angel of God, of the Lord.
Angel of mine.
No, but normally they say an angel, but in this case, it's the angel of the Lord. Do you want to know what the difference is?
Yeah,
for the listeners,
most important, like the bad bitch.
Let me, sorta.
Okay.
So when you see the angel of the Lord in the Bible, as opposed to an angel of the Lord in the Bible, that "the" signifies that this isn't just no regular degular. That "the" means that this could potentially be God incarnate, like pre-incarnate, which again, Christian, when any Christian that reads that, sees that and they go, oh, this is Jesus. Like, this is Jesus pre-incarnate. Now, of course, not everyone has my same life experiences. Not everyone has, taken Christianity as their like philosophical, spiritual system. But in any case, that "the" and the "and" still is signifies that this is not just some regular. This is God in a human flesh. And this man goes up to Hagar and says, oh my God, this is one of my favorite verses in the Bible, but let me get the number. I believe it's Genesis 17. Wait, hold on. I can find, please. I need to get this right. If I don't get this right, I'll be remiss.
Listen, I'm just going to give you guys a little commercial break here. Rate
Are my nipples showing?
Review this podcast. Brianda needs some rating and reviews. Give her 5 stars. And when you're in the comments on the Apple section, please let her know what you want to hear about next while she is looking aimlessly for these notes on Jesus.
I take so many notes for this show. I want it to be good, so good.
Well, if you're watching on YouTube, as you can see, I wish I could zoom in, but I can't. Brianda looks like she has a late paper due. And a teacher says, if you don't find it in 5 minutes, that's it.
I got it. Wait, did I just put it down? I just had it. Here, I got it. Just kidding. So, back into the story, because this is my favorite, one of my favorite verses in the Bible. And oftentimes people don't talk about it, but it shook me to the core the first time. Nipple check. How are my nipples? Good. Alex, do something with that.
They're good ones.
Amazing. Genesis 16, verse 8. The angel says, where have you come from and where are you going? Like, slave woman, Hagar, where do you come from and where are you going? Ooh, if you feel that, please say something. Pause the video. Pause it. Pause the video. Pause whatever. If you're on Spotify, Apple, like, what is God saying there? And why would God ever ask someone, where do you come from and where are you going? God knows. God knows exactly where she came from and where she's going.
Ooh, he be knowing it. He be knowing everything, girl. Why?
Yeah. Well, he asks Hagar this so that she has a moment to reflect on. I don't even know what to say there. So for me, when God asks Hagar this question, he's asking her, why don't you trust me? Just as simple as that. Reveal your heart to me and tell me why you don't trust me. And of course, she sees it. God's in front of her, and she reveals her story to him. And he tells her, you're going to be okay. I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to take care of that baby inside of you. I know that baby isn't the baby that Abraham isn't in wedlock, and I understand that. I understand your predicament right now. But I'm going to take care of you, and I need you to trust me. So when he asks Hagar, where do you come from and where are you going? Like if you know that, why do you doubt? And other people may have different interpretations of what that means. But man, that one shakes me to my core. Anywho, after this interaction, God tells Hagar to go back. Listen, trust me, just give birth to the baby. You're going to name him Ishmael, but go back. I'm going to take care of you. So Hagar ends up going back. She goes back, and guess what? Ain't Ish changed back there. Sarah's still a bitch. Abram's still a cuck. They are but guess what? Though her surroundings haven't changed, Hagar's heart has changed. All she needed was to feel and experience the presence of God, to feel better about her predicament, because she had God's promise that things were going to be better for her. Sometimes all you need is that hope, that little promise. Perspective, right? Like, perspective is everything. And in this case, that was displayed here. And it's one of my favorite parts of the story of Abraham and Hagar. Winding down the episode. This whole episode, we've got so many sins, so many lies, adultery. Abraham and Sarah are half siblings. That much was true. They actually were siblings, but they weren't like brother and sister. They were half brother and sister. You've got deceit. You've got going against God's covenant. I'm talking about flawed characters here. But in this wrap up of this current episode, I just want to say that the thing that affects God's promises the most negatively are when we act out of fear and impatience. Nothing was a better example of that than with Sarah. I mean, think about it. Because of Sarah's meddling, right? Ishmael was born, which could be a blessing, right? I mean, Ishmael ended up being, some say, a descendant of Muhammad, which is a prophet in the religion Islam. Major, but because of Sarah's fear and impatience, even today, to this day, there are wars with Jewish people and Muslims. I say that's all because of Sarah's mistake. A 4,000-year-old war because of one person's mistake. Sarah, you know? Sarah, whatever, you know, exactly. Moral of the story is, God always fulfills his promises. And when we go against them, we're just resisting what's for us. God fulfills promises. Period. God sees. He's merciful. Even after Abraham and Sarah sinned, God keeps his promise to them. So we know and see that God is sovereign. The Hagar in Spanish, the Hagar story teaches us that God sees us even when we aren't the main character in the story. Hagar is like the side piece. She's not even side piece. She's like the side piece's slave. And he still promises her major things. He doesn't let anything on the stovetop burn or undercook. He's got it under control. His love is boundless and limitless. I don't know. I don't want to read. You know what? And who knows? Maybe God's promises and our trust in his promises are all we need. We don't need the tangible stuff when we have that. Maybe. Or maybe I'm lying. Maybe we do need it. Who knows? Sound off in the comments. I'm not a preacher and I don't want to act like I know all the answers because I don't. But from listening to the stories, I'm just sure. Fight me. Hey, Jesus. Oh, thank you. I really tried my best, you know. I know it's a tough and involved story. You didn't want me to mention that they were siblings, but it's in the book. Okay. I love you too. And he loves you too. Oh yeah, these are butterflies.
Did he see mine? Hey, Jesus, did you see me?
Oh man, yeah, he says that they look tacky.
Oh.
We'll do better next time. See you guys. Listen to the next episode. Bye. Oh, my cellulite.